This is Extra Yarn. It's written by Mac Barnett and illustrated by Jon Klassen. Extra Yarn. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town, where everywhere you looked was either white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. Look, here's Annabelle and her dog, and here is the box, and inside there's yarn. And not just brown and black and white yarn, colors of yarn. So she went home and she knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. Just like the title, look, there is her sweater. Isn't it colorful? So she knit a sweater for Mars too. But there was still extra yarn. Look, Mars is the name of her dog, just like the planet. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. Look, there he is, pointing and laughing. Look, even his dog is kind of laughing. There they are walking. Ooh, look at her face. Does she like to be pointed at and laughed at? No, she looks angry. See, her eyebrows are down like this, and her mouth is like this. But it turned out he was jealous. So look, he got a sweater, and the dog got a sweater. Now they seem happier, right? And even after she'd made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and for herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. Look, I think that's the leash. She made a leash and it got all wound around the trees. The dog's like, "What now?" And she's like, I think we might have to cut it. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet," shouted Mr. Norman. He seems grumpy. "Quiet, everyone. Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." Look, there she is in her colorful sweater, and she's got the box, and look, right there, those are her knitting needles. That's what she uses to make the yarn into sweaters. But it turns out she could, and she did, even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. Look, they're all connected together. That's kind of funny. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louis. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters, or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. Does he like his hat? I think he's smiling under that beard. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and for the other animals too. Soon Annabelle would run out of yarn. Look, cat, 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 dog, bear, bunny. But it turns out she didn't. Look, she made a mailbox cover out of yarn, a birdhouse cover out of yarn, a house cover out of yarn. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. It's funny, right? Things began to change in that little town. Remember how it looked in the beginning of the story? How does it look different now? Remember how everything was black and white and gray and brown? Look how colorful it is now. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and soon people came to visit from around the world to see all the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. This is before COVID. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. That must be him there on his boat. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn, and I'm willing to offer you $1,000,000. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2,000,000, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10,000,000, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night, the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house. And they stole the box. And they took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. Look, they left 1, 2, 3 ladders on Annabelle's house. There goes the ship. They've got the box. To his castle. The archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair, and he took out the box and he lifted its lid and he looked inside. His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. The archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." Why was he so angry? No yarn, right? He thought it would be in there, but it's not. But, see that chunk of ice, that little iceberg? That one's got the box on it. And there goes the box. Back across the ocean. Look who is finding it. There's Annabelle and Mars. There's the box with their knitting needles. There's the town. And it turned out she was happy. Remember, he said that you would never be happy again? He was wrong, the archduke. She was happy. Look, she made a sweater for a tree. That is the story of Extra Yarn. I really like this story because it's about kindness, right? She finds the box with the yarn and she doesn't just keep it all for herself. She shares with everybody. Thanks for reading with me.